Hello there, and welcome back to the Awesome Carson YouTube channel. So we did drums, and I got a question about bass. So I thought it would be a good time to talk about how I handle bass. So first of all, this is a DI'd. This is my P bass. Doing my best Duck Dunn impression there. So this is the first thing that I'll do. As I mentioned last time, the important frequencies here are 60 and 1000. So here is what they're doing. So the 60 is the heft, it's the real low end, and the 1000 is the attack and the pluck. So if you're having an issue where like you're trying to get something to come through on the phone, or if you feel that the bass isn't really connected to the guitars or the keyboards or whatever the primary rhythmic instrument is, the mid-range is usually what's going to make that work. The mid-range lets your ear find the low end and kind of points it in the right direction. And also, that's just where the guitars or the keyboards or whatever are going to live more in that area. So by nudging it more in that direction, it's going to feel more coherent, like one piece of music. There's a lot of bass sounds that are kind of just low end, and that can lead to kind of a too isolated sound to my ear. That can work for certain types of music, I'm sure. But I like when there's a kind of like cohesion between the instruments and it all turns into one thing rather than being too isolated. That's a personal preference, but that's what I think. So the other thing is the tape, and this is 15 IPS for the low end boost. I turn the crosstalk up on this one. I just think it does something extra. So again, on the harmonic side of things, tape distorts more the higher it goes up in the frequency range, so it's going to keep the low end pretty clean, and then it's going to distort more, so you're going to get more distortion in the mid-range. There's not a ton of high end. Oh yeah, I am rolling off some of the high end there. There's not a ton of high end on bass, certainly not this type of sound, but it applies the same. It's going to be even more distorted up there. So speaking of which, one of the best ways to learn what each part of the frequency range is doing is to split the bass into two channels. So as you can see, the top one is everything below 300 hertz, and the bottom one is everything above 300 hertz. There's absolutely no reason to do this with anything other than the stock EQ. You're just going to waste CPU power. And so one thing that I would recommend is just take those two, put them each on a fader, and just balance how much of each you like. If you are listening on a phone, I'm sure this one came through significantly better. And even better is to have them both together. So this allows you to keep your low end to process these things separately. And I do this so that I can keep the low end clean and then start to distort the upper end. So first thing I'll do is the venerable Ampeg B15. I do roll the bass entirely out of this. You know, treble isn't really treble on this one, I find. But you know, don't really need it, so just tucking it in a bit more. And then, you know, this is going to control how dirty your sound is too. I'm just using a little bit here because I'm just trying to make a point. But this is what they sound like together. So I think that makes an enormous difference in the mix. The low end remains clean and tight, and we get the grindier upper mid harmonic thing that guitar amps and bass amps do so well. And you can do this if you want to. I'll always feel for you just like I did then, right at the start. You know, that's just going to be, you know, you need to decide that for your own music, your own mix. That's just the easiest way to get more grind out of it. But you can also do something like this. This is just something I had in my plugin folder. It's got a drive knob. This is what it sounds like. Forever in my heart. I'll always feel for you just like I did then, right at the start. You can decide how much of this you want for yourself. This is like a Staxy thing, so I think it needs a bit of hair, but not a ton. Next, we have sidechaining, and I'm going to show you two ways to do this. Again, stock compressors, the easiest way to do this. The kick is going to push down the lower half of the bass, and the snare is going to push down the top half of the bass because that's where the most conflict is going to be. And I will show this to you, and you can hear it. Oh, but I know that's a lie. Thanks to these memories kept forever in my heart. I'll always feel for you just like I did then, right at the start. So this is a subtle thing, but I think it makes a difference. As you can see, I'm just tapping them. This type of sidechaining is going to push down the entire signal, not just a portion of it. And so it's easy to overdo it. I don't want to hear it pumping. This is not an effect. This is just so the drums stay slappy and punchy and don't get drowned out by the bass. Now, this is a perfectly good way to do it, but the way I normally do it is with this plugin, which is the Brainworks Dynamic EQ. And this is much more specific. This is taking the fundamental frequency of the 60 hertz. It's using the kick to push 60 hertz out of the lower end of the bass, and it's using the snare to push 700 out of the top half of the bass. You can go even further with this and just take all the pertinent frequencies and make sure that anything you've boosted is getting momentarily pocket EQ'd out of the other parts of the signal, but this is more than enough. I don't know, but I know that's a lie. Thanks to these memories kept forever in my heart. I'll always feel for you just like I did then, right at the start. Tell me, how can I keep on I like that better. It's subtler. It just allows the most important part of the drums to punch through without knocking too much out of the bass. Uh, I think that that's really kind of essential. Uh, I didn't talk about this, but I have a whole other video to do about my relationship with compression. But at the end here, everything is getting
I'll always feel for you just
lovingly tapped with a bit of this wonderful compression from.
like I did then, right at the start. Tell me, how can I keep on living if you call this living without you? How can I keep on giving while I'm still so crazy about you? Whoa, how can I carry on every time?
Yeah, bass is one of the things that I think bass gets really overly dynamic, so you want to tap it a bit. Tape helps and amps help and all this, but especially when you have multiple signals, it's sometimes nice to just smush them back together. So I hope that's clear. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you learned something from this. Thank you very much. See you next time.